Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X Twitter at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to the Movies TV Mad Daily. So you've probably read the reports, but if not, let me fill you in. The latest Warner Brothers Discovery financials have come in, and yes, they've leaked another $11 billion. And confidence in Warner Brothers Television is going down the pan. Now, let me tell you that Warner Brothers Television used to be a very proud division of WB. If you remember the WB network, even the CW in its pomp did quite okay. I mean, apparently the CW never made any money. That's interesting. But it did have viewers. So, I don't know. But we're not talking about the CW. We're talking about this proud studio leaking a lot of money. So what went wrong with WB? There's no question about it. Every Hollywood studio and streamer is feeling the pinch right now. There's many reasons. The COVID pandemic, I suppose, had an effect. But by now, we shouldn't be talking about the effects of the COVID pandemic. So that is just an excuse. Their creative bankruptcy, their laziness with reboots and sequels, their creative bankruptcy, their political kind of obsession, their insanity. Modern day Hollywood isn't employing the best people. It isn't employing the best actors anymore, the best directors, the best writers. It's just a selected bunch of people who have got the right DNA who shouldn't be there. Now, of course, Hollywood always employed on DNA. The difference is talent was very important because Hollywood is surrounded with that DNA, but you've always got to pick the most talented people. Now, let's localize this problem with WB. What went wrong with WB? They used to be owned by Time Warner. Now, say what you like about Time Warner's running of the studio, but they understood how a scripted studio must be run. They sold it to AT&T, a cable and wireless company. Yes, guess what? They had no clue how to run a scripted studio, so of course it all went wrong. They decided to focus on a streaming service called HBO Max, and it went a little caca. Well, not a little caca. It went wrong. You can't have a studio run on scripted entertainment and its lead, its lead concept is streaming. You know, WB was born and bred, like all these studios, on the cinematic system. And cinema still works when you actually release stuff people want to watch and put, great movies. As we've seen from Deadpool and Wolverine, not necessarily a great movie, but it is something that people went to watch in their droves. And this, my friends, is what it's all about. But even worse for WB, once AT&T ran the studio into the ground, they did the deal with the proverbial devil, because they merged with Discovery, whose CEO would automatically become the new CEO of a newly formed company called Warner Brothers Discovery. We thought this might be a new era of greatness, as Zaslav, who is the guy who was CEO of Discovery and now the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, spoke a good game, a big game about focusing on cinema, sticking to the aesthetics of the old Warner Brothers, the brothers who formed the studio. Well, Mr. Zaslav, one of your first decisions was to shelve a film called Batgirl without telling the people who directed it, the two guys who directed it, the cast and crew, that you were doing so. I don't think the Warner Brothers guys would have done something like that. Maybe things happened back then, but yeah, so what happened was, Batgirl was supposed to be released on HBO Max, as was Blue Beetle. He decided he didn't want films on original movies on HBO Max. They now call it Max, by the way, because apparently that would make all the difference, which it hasn't, by the way. That streaming service is still failing. We'll get to streaming in Hollywood, right? But basically, you know, so his thing was that Blue Beetle could be moved through the cinematic system because apparently that was a good enough movie, but Batgirl wasn't good enough to be released as a movie. Well, I've seen Batgirl and it's a billion times better than Blue Beetle. Surprise, surprise, a guy who knows nothing about running scripted entertainment, as Zaslav admitted at the time, but claimed he was getting, you know, advice from, you know, experienced kind of industry people, wasn't making the right decisions. Who advised him that shelving Batgirl was a good idea? But it's gotten worse because he shelved other movies. A Looney Tunes movie that apparently now will be released because they got some kind of sponsor, will be released via the cinematic system. But recently, their Boomerang network, their animated, you know, TV network, which has cartoons throughout the day, you know, now they're hitting it and they're taking stuff from there and putting it on their struggling streaming service, Max. And that's the problem. Streaming has been one of the big reasons that WB are near bankruptcy, because their situation has been perilous for a very, very long time. There's something called consumer confidence, and WB lost their consumer confidence a long time ago, before Zaslav, before AT&T, actually when Time Warner still owned the studio. The DCEU calamity really hurt consumer confidence, the way they treated Snyder, the way they pushed him off of Justice League, the way they gave us Justice League instead of the Snyder Cut, or instead of Snyder's original vision. At least it would have been a 2.5 movie, maybe 2 hours 45 minutes, but we never saw that movie. And then the fans had to fight for the Snyder Cut, which we got. AT&T and John Stankey made sure of that. But not to be nice, because they wanted to launch their ill-fated streaming service, HBO Max. So the Snyder Cut would launch on there to launch the service. So there you have it. So this is what's gone wrong with Warner Brothers, and this is why they're losing so much money, no consumer confidence, a struggling streaming service that they keep on like moving all the fortunes of the rest of the studio over to it to keep it going. For some reason, Warner Brothers just can't accept that streaming isn't for them. For some reason, Disney can't accept that streaming isn't for them. They tried to jump on the Netflix bandwagon. They all claimed they would destroy, break the backs of Netflix, but it's Netflix that's broken their backs instead. And I love to see it. I'm here for it. I'm glad Netflix has won the streaming war, because big studios should not be involved in streaming. It simply doesn't work. Streaming isn't the future. Cinema is the past, present, and future. Cinema still works. They tried to move all their cinematic releases during COVID in 2021 on HBO Max, and they felt the wrath of Christopher Nolan. So he left the studio now. He's at Universal. There were rumours that he might come back, but I doubt it. They've done a deal with Tom Cruise. I'm not sure how realistic this deal is, if it's a real deal, but they've tried their best to look like they're getting back to the older Warner Brothers. We'll see if Tom Cruise actually makes anything over a Warner Brothers. But the elephant in the room is this, everyone, that you can't have companies who have no experience in running scripted entertainment because Warner Brothers' downfall has nothing to do with the so-called wokeness. It's not been the issue really at WB. But then you look at other decisions that Zaslav's made that no intelligent, experienced person in scripted entertainment would make. The decision I've been talking about forever. I'm a huge Harry Potter movie guy. I've never read the books, but I love the movies. This Muppet decided to take the Harry Potter franchise, not only to reboot it, away from the continuity from the successful films, which is fucking insane. He's going to do a series on streaming. Harry Potter to WB is worth millions, maybe billions upon billions with every sequel in the cinema. This clown is moving it to streaming. Zero value. All it's about, as I said the other day, or maybe I said it on Twitter, it's about taking a flat line. Right, imagine, right, you keep on bouncing cucumbers on someone's forehead on a coma. So every time you bounce it, every 5 bounces, you see a bump in the flat line, but it's still dead. The guy is still dead. You waste the world's supply of cucumbers just to bounce them on the geezer's forehead to get a bump on the flat line now and again. That's my analogy. This is what they're doing with streaming. These are not clever business people. These are fucking idiots, right? The Snyder situation, we go back to it. We go back to Time Warner, AT&T, who at least saw the value of releasing the Snyder Cut, and Zaslav, who has no intention of getting involved with Snyder. Here's the thing. It was pretty clear years ago. Don't forget, they fucked with Snyder in 2016, 2017. How many years ago is that? 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23. That's nearly over 7 years ago. They've had 7 years to come to an agreement with Snyder. They could have had his movies, his art finished off on a side of DC that had nothing to do with a continuity, like an extended universe, right? It could have just been Elseworldy, right? They could have come to some arrangement. There's money in Snyder's movies, not with a general audience, right, as we've discussed in the past few days, but there's money there. There's money there. But they didn't do it. So these are not clever people whatsoever. So with all that being said, after losing convulsing another $11 billion, people say to me, it's only $11 billion. It ain't $11. It ain't $11 million. It's $11 fucking billion. Now that's a lot of money. This is serious, people. These studios, Hollywood is dying for many different reasons. But this studio is really close to being bought up. And you know what's so sad about this situation, as I said many moons ago? When Warner Brothers is bought up, you won't see a Warner Brothers anymore. Be like 20th Century Fox, which now is just 20th Century Studios, which isn't a real studio. It's basically Disney. So it's sad. We don't get independently made 20th Century Fox movies anymore because there is no 20th Century Fox anymore. 20th Century Studios just means it's Disney, baby, but it's just coming out of a different credit. Do you know what I mean? So this is what's going to happen to Warner Brothers. Someone's going to swallow them up, Universal, anyone. They're going to just be owned by someone else, and it'll be interesting who owns them because of the DC situation. Talking of DC, everyone, here's what I really wanted to get into. They are in so much trouble now, this studio, they are relying on James Gunn's Superman, on James Gunn's DC Universe to bail them out. I wouldn't want to be in James Gunn's shoes. I've always wanted to make movies, perform, and all of that. I love this game, I love this industry, but I enjoy performing on an amateur level with my Amateur Dramatic Society in my theatre. But I wouldn't swap places with James Gunn right now if you paid me. The whole studio is now relying on him to bail them out. Because if Superman succeeds, then it's all go on DC Universe and there's something for WB to fight for and maybe not sell the studio. I would imagine that nothing will happen in terms of a sale until they see what happens with Superman. I think Superman is the thing that will decide everything. Maybe if Superman's successful, someone will come in and they'll want to sell it. Maybe that's the thing as well. So it's all riding on Superman. Make no mistake about that. So the shills will tell you, oh, you know, Superman don't have to be successful, man. A whole studio is relying on that film. Isn't it ironic that the greatest superhero in the world is the one expected to save Warner Brothers as they've treated him in the past few years so disgustingly? They cancelled a sequel to Man of Steel. They put Henry Cavill after Justice League on the subs bench, even refusing his pitch of a really good movie. And the pitch, I can tell you, is really good. I'm not at liberty to divulge what that pitch was, but the Mission Impossible Fallout director had a great idea, and so did Cavill. I think Warner Brothers' problem really was, how do we jump this off from the rest of the stuff that's already been done? I think that's been the problem, but you could have cancelled all of that and gone forward with Cavill's Superman. But anyway, and you could have even segregated Snyder's stuff into something, you know, as I say, elseworldy. But they don't think outside the box. They don't. What they think about is streaming, 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 streaming. Something that's losing them money every day. They can never make a profit on streaming. They've lost far too much money. There's no money. There isn't the subs fucking out there. OnlyFans makes more fucking money, and I'm not talking about the individual girls, I'm talking about the fucking company. Has more subs than any of these fucking streamers. More blokes are interested in whacking one off, right, in front of a fucking laptop than subscribing to HBO Max, Disney Plus, Apple TV or whatever they're fucking calling it today, yeah? That's the truth of the matter. So, there is no money in streaming, unless you're Netflix. Because it's all they do. It's their thing. And you thought you could compete. But anyway, so James Gunn must be feeling the pressure right now. Believe you me, Zaslav will be micromanaging him, watching him. I think it will be, what's his name? The other guy, the other co-CEO of DC Studios. Forgot his name now, not James Gunn, the other guy. Peter Safran, that's right. I think he's the one really getting it in the net. Gunn will be allowed to be creative because they know it's very important to leave Gunn alone, because Gunn, despite the way he portrays himself, he's very similar to Snyder and to Nolan and to Reeves, Matt Reeves. They like to do what they want to do. They do not want to be micromanaged. So he will be left alone. But if it gets ruined, they're all fucked. This Superman film is Warner Brothers' last chance. That's it. The studio will be in so much trouble because I don't know how much money they've sunk on Gunn's vision. Don't forget they've already greenlit a Supergirl film. I still don't think you're gonna... They seem to be going forward, but will they start shooting before the release of Superman? I very much doubt it. The day those tickets are released is going to be a very, very interesting day. Because this film really has to work. This film has to be enjoyed, has to make money. Warner Brothers are in no position to be James Gunn's charity. They're not. Make no mistake, this film has to succeed. And I'm not going to be a crystal ball looker. Or, you know, Nostradamus and say to you, it's definitely not going to succeed, or it is going to succeed. People always want me to put my hat on the ring. I don't know. If you want a gut feeling, and again, I'll be sitting on the fence, it's 50-50. I think this is a film that could go either way, simply because of certain situations. There's the Snyder fans who are obviously going to boycott this film. Don't forget, when I say Snyder fans, don't underestimate that bunch of people. There's a lot of people. This isn't just the BVS fans. This is the Man of Steel fans. Because don't forget, it's not just the Snyder fans that are going to boycott this. There's fans that are not Snyder fans, that are Henry Cavill fans. He's probably got even more fans than Zack Snyder. What they did to Henry Cavill was the biggest fucking own goal a commercial concern can do to its customers. Not only did they do what they did to Snyder, which some fans were fine with, but when they did what they did to Henry Cavill, when they said he was coming back, then Gunn reversed that decision. That pissed a lot of people off. So it doesn't really matter how good David Corenswet is, in a way. In a way, it won't really matter how good this film is. And I don't know about this film's quality or if the vision will be embraced. But what they did to Henry Cavill really was the rod that broke the camel's back. So you've got the Snyder fans that are going to boycott, and you've got a separate contingent of the Henry Cavill fans. They believe he's Superman. They believe he should still be playing Superman. He's a very popular figure, as we saw from him having a little bit of screen time in Deadpool and Wolverine. He was amazing as that Wolverine, and I say give him the gig full time. Wouldn't that be exciting? Wouldn't that be amazing? So there are people who are definitely not going to go and support this movie. So you don't have a united fan base. And then we always have to talk about these people, the general audience. What are they thinking? Are they excited? Will they all be embracing James Gunn's Superman? That's another untrodden board, which we simply don't know. I'm very uncomfortable about the Kingdom Come insignia, Superman insignia, being the marketing. I think it's totally the wrong insignia. They should have stuck with the traditional S. And normies won't give a shit about Kingdom Come. And they're the vital audience members here. They're going to see the S and think, why is it different? Has he redesigned the S? And if Gunn goes to a general audience who's never picked up a comic book before and go, well, it's Kingdom Come. And they're going to go, what the fuck is Kingdom Come? Does a king whack one off, right? Is it the almighty waterfall? We don't understand. What does Kingdom Come fucking mean? So that's the problem. What he's doing, this is interesting, because he's embracing the nerds, the geeks, the DC Comics fans, and the Superman Comics fans by embracing Kingdom Come. So what is Gunn's plan here? Gunn's plan is to take all the best stuff from the Adventures of Superman, the New Adventures of Superman, Superboy, Superman 78, Smallville, Superman and Lois. He's going to take, and the comics, that's why he's doing a little bit of All-Star Superman, a little bit of Kingdom Come. And how do I know this? Just look at the costume that they designed. It has little bits of different versions of different Superman costumes. And I said when I was reviewing the costume, you can't do that. People are looking at it and they're not going to say, oh, there's a little bit of this there and there's a little bit of that there. That's the idea. You think that could work. But from looking at the costume doesn't look great, does it? Now, again, as Zack Snyder said, let's wait to see what we get when we get the movie. And I will be there. I'm a Superman fan, as I said yesterday. So I want to see this movie, desperately. I want it to be a great movie. I don't know what it's going to be. I cannot advise you right now either way. But I do have some outstanding sources, as you all know. So Gunn's finished making this movie. So he's on post. He's on post-production now. So as soon as we got any leaks of what's going on, if anyone's seen anything, we will get you that news. Absolutely. And I'm very intrigued to know. There is no sign of a trailer this year, which I think is a huge mistake. He said there'll be no trailer this year. I think there needs to be a trailer this year. It ain't that difficult to put a trailer together. Yes, he's doing post-production. You know, I mean, he's got till next July, which really, if you think about it, when you talk about post-production, isn't a long time. He's got under a year to do post on that movie. Post, VFX, editing, the lot. Believe you me, that really isn't that long. I mean, it's about time. It's about the time frame they get these days. So we'll see how that film turns out. And we'll see what kind of leaks we get. As I say, any leaks. But with the convulsing of another $11 billion, this has been a downward spiral, really since Time Warner sold the studio. As I said, AT&T fucked it up. No experience in scripted entertainment. Zaslav, even worse. His decisions mainly have been a nightmare. Zaslav has not been a good... Let's be fucking clear here. Because he spoke such a good game beforehand. I believed in him. A lot of us believed in him. And I'm not going to pretend I didn't. I supported originally his decision to remove Batgirl. To cancel Batgirl. I was wrong. Make no mistake. I was wrong. And all the people who were upset were right to be upset. I'm big enough and ugly enough to admit when I'm wrong. You just can't do that. You know, modern day studios cannot cancel movies when they've already been made. You know, a movie, the way he was talking, that Batgirl must have been so shit. And isn't it interesting, the co-CEO of DC Studios, Peter Safran, backing that decision publicly last year. Say it was the right decision. Because, of course, they're all in cahoots. Zaslav, Gunn, and Safran. Because they're all on the same page. They're supporting each other. They're supporting, you know, Zaslav is supporting Gunn and Safran. So they'll say anything. I'm sure they don't really agree that cancelling a movie before you fucking tell the directors or the actors or the cast or the fucking crew is a good fucking idea. Right? No one could support that. I never supported that. I believed the movie was bad and that's why it was cancelled. I believe that Zaslav did his due diligence. Maybe the guy didn't even fucking watch the movie. Well, I did watch Batgirl. We know the directors of Batgirl are very good directors at the very least. And they did a very, very good job. Not one of the greatest films ever, but it's certainly better than any of the DCEU movies that were released last year. So then you have to ask the question, why did he do it? He looked at all the movies. He wanted a tax rebate, right, off one of the movies. So he thought, right, not Aquaman, because he thought that had more profitability. He didn't care the quality. He didn't care about the quality of the film. But what's even worse about what happened to last year's DCEU movies, and the Zaslav decision again, he got Gunn to interfere with a few of those movies as well. It'd be interesting what Gunn really thinks about the cancellation of Batgirl. Was that his decision? Was it Zaslav's decision or was it Gunn's decision? The Flash movie is a much worse film than Batgirl. That's not even a debate, considering I've seen all the movies. So Zaslav and AT&T have been an absolute fucking disaster for WB. And who would have thought you would say that when Time Warner once run Warner Brothers? But at least there was an element of professionalism back then. And there was a lot of good pictures being made. But the days are gone of good people running Hollywood studios and networks. The days of Terry Saville at Warner Brothers. You know, Dick Donner talking about, you know, Saville and how supportive he was at the time with Lethal Weapon. And even during Superman, I think. So the people, the good CEOs that we used to have at these studios 30, 40, 50 years ago, it's all gone now. It's gone. The people running studios now are fucking pure business people. But what's stunning is about them, they're not even good business people. It's shocking when you look at the decisions they make. Someone like me who's never been part of the studio system knows that basically taking Snyder's Justice League and turning it into Justice League is dumb. You know that. You don't work in the industry, whether you support Snyder or not. I don't work in the industry. But that result, Justice League, was fucking embarrassing. And they released that piece of shit to the world. That's how far our entertainment industry has fallen. There's no way 30 fucking years ago something like Justice League would be released to the world. Now we can look at Superman 4. A lot of people say, well, what about that film, Mick? That was not a good result. Clearly, they reduced the budget. Clearly, it wasn't the greatest movie ever if you compare it to the other Superman movies, even including Superman 3, a movie I don't mind personally. But you know what? When you go back and look at Superman 4, it's not a bad film. It's not a great film, but there's some good things. And Reeve just puts his shine on it with his Superman. It should, really, that's another film that should never have been released. And that's probably the Justice League of its time, but no way the disaster in terms of the movie. I mean, probably what was going on behind the scenes was a disaster, I agree. And Hollywood have made these kind of mistakes before. But Justice League was a fucking disgrace. any fucking modern day studio that releases that shit gets what they deserve.